Dominicans at home and abroad. Wednesday, April 13th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Join the conversation as we discuss emerging career trends for a changing world. As we continue to adapt to an ever changing world, the question must be asked: are we missing out on financial opportunities because we are not pursuing the right career paths? Join our guests, Dr. Randy Glean, Associate Vice President of Western Illinois University, Miss Terry Ann Bino, CEO of Terry Consulting, Mr. Simeon Joseph, social scientist and educational consultant, and Miss Alifia Paris Toulon, Director of Special Education at the Wichita Falls Independent School District. Join the conversation as we explore which career fields are now in high demand and are needed to secure the financial future of Dominicans at home and abroad. What are the qualifications and expectations required to secure these opportunities? What are the financial and other rewards which can be expected with these careers? And what are the implications for the development of our country and our region as a whole? Let your voice be heard and join the conversation as we continue to tap into our experts at home and abroad to explore concrete and practical economic and national development opportunities and to inspire hope for our brothers and sisters. Wednesday, April 13th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Roots Connections on Cue with Dr. Simone Mathieu and our guests, Dr. Randy Glean, Miss Terry Ann Bino, Mr. Simeon Joseph, and Miss Alifia Paris Toulon. Only on Q95, the big station.
A pleasant good evening to you, to our Q95 listeners at home and abroad. It is great to be back with you for what I believe you will find to be a very eye-opening discussion. Whether we like it or not, the world around us is changing rapidly. And one of the goals of Roots Connections is to guide us through the changes as we explore the benefits of these changes as well as the challenges which come with these changes. So today we have another packed hour for you, another packed 2 hours of programming this evening as we look at emerging career trends for a changing world. So in addition to being live on Q95, we're also live on Facebook at Q95 FM Radio, if you would like to join the conversation there, as well as Push Past 10. And on YouTube, we are live at Q95 FM Radio. So again, a pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to episode number 22 of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. This is Roots Connections for today, Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, and I am your host, Simone Mathieu. We are back to discuss how we can all come together to move our country forward by securing the economic independence of today. And before we get started, while we were in backstage, we were just talking about what sparked this conversation. And I'm very thankful that both Dr. Randy Glean and Mr. Simeon Joseph is here with us today, because it was an exchange between them when Dr. Glean went to Dominica recently to do some recruiting for Western Illinois University that sparked the idea for this conversation. So I want to thank them for inspiring this conversation. We want to thank the panel for being here. As we heard from the promo, we have Dr. Randy Glean, Associate Vice President at Western Illinois University, Ms. Terry Ann Bino, CEO of Terry Consulting, Mr. Simeon Joseph, Social Scientist and Educational Consultant, as well as Ms. Alifia Paris Toulon, Director of Special Education over there at Wichita Falls Independent School District in Texas. So let us say good evening to our panel as they unmute their mics and they greet our audience. So please feel free to unmute your mic and say hi to the audience.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
And the
Good
man.
evening. Pleasure to be with you.
Good evening. Nice being here.
Yes. Right. So again, thank you for being here. Our entire panel is with us today. And we also say good evening to everyone joining us via the radio as well as Facebook and YouTube Live. We always look forward to your interaction, your engagement via the Facebook Live Messenger area, as well as your phone call. We also say a pleasant good evening to Mr. G and the Q95 family, as well as Lambi on the console and our engineer, Mr. Sherwin Norris. And don't forget, if you've missed any episode of this program, you can always go over to q95da.com to get the episodes that you have missed. For example, the last episode we did was If Not the Citizen by Investment Program, Then What? The need to identify and invest in our resourceful people and our promising industry. And we also heard earlier today a lot of calls for the Global Q on the Global View on Q program from Tuesday. So if you want to see that entire program, you can also head on over to q95da.com. So again, it is great to have everyone here. If you're just joining us, again, this is Roots Connections on Q, and we are talking about emerging career trends as the world continues to change. So let's just jump right into the conversation. The panel is ready to go. So let's jump right into the conversation. And we always begin with introductions. So each member of the panel will go ahead and just give us a brief introduction of who you are. And I know the men will not mind that we do ladies first. So Alithia, we will start with you.
Good evening again, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be part of this program this evening. Dr. Matthew, thanks for your invitation, and it's nice to be in the company of Dr. Randy Glean, Terry Ann Bino, and Mr. Simeon Joseph. I also want to take the opportunity to say hello to my folks out there in Marigot, Afwawi Pasi. I have to shout out my community because I'm originally from the community of Marigot. And as you mentioned earlier on, I live in Wichita Falls, Texas. I currently work with the Wichita Falls Independent School District as the Director of Special Education. By profession, I'm an educator, and I joined the teaching profession way back in 1990. I attended the St. Andrews High School out there in Londonderry many years ago. And from there, I taught at the Marigot Foundation High School, went away for a year to do some studies, came back and spent some time at Grand Bay Secondary, then to the Dominica Grammar School, then to the Goodwill Secondary, and then I left for the United States to study in Texas. And I have been out here. I live here in Wichita Falls with my husband, Mr. Wayne Tula. Dr. Matthew, we talked a little while ago about him being your neighbor. He's from Bath Estate. And so it's a pleasure to be part of this program this evening. And thank you again for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for being here. Miss Terry Ann Bino, we want to come over to you for your introduction.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Ann Bino. I am from Point Michelle, born and raised. I went to St. Luke's School, then Convent High School. And my life is kind of based on school, and you'll see why in a while. Um, I I started teaching in Dominica from 1991. I taught at the Dominica Grammar School, Isaiah Thomas Secondary School, and back at grammar school. So I taught for 10 years, and I wanted more school for myself. So I went to Texas and I did a degree there. Then, thinking I was going to enter the business world, I was brought right back into the classroom. I taught there for 4 years and got fed up with teaching, wanted to join the world of education, but on the administrative side. So I moved to Massachusetts for more school. And after getting my first master's degree, I was in the corporate world recruiting for a university. After 3 years, I'm like, I need more space. These walls cannot contain me. So I left again to go back into the classroom and um, did another master's because I decided education was it, not business. And now I've combined my business side with my education side. So I kind of have three hats right now. I'm a high school teacher of French. I am the CEO of Terry Consulting, which is a consulting firm. And under that hat, I recruit students for Western Illinois University with Dr. Glean. And I also consult with students on their career goals, because some of them are like, I need a degree, I'm not sure where to go. So I give one-on-one consulting. And I also am the CEO of Terry Bino, the teacher strategist. And under that hat, I coach teachers, mostly high school teachers, but I coach teachers, and that's an online business that I do. Most of it is one-on-one, but some group coaching as well. So that's
Yes.
in a nutshell.
Yes, thank you so much, Terry. And you will be happy to know that your mom, Mrs. Ophelia Olivache Marie, is on the Facebook Live. She's very proud of you, and she wants to know that you're here. And we also thank her because she was the one who links me to you, as well as Dr. Randy Glean. So let's go over now to Dr. Glean for your introduction.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Mathieu. Well, I am the most Dominican, non-Dominican you'll probably ever run into on the planet. I am Grenadian parentage, but I won't disavow any part of the entire Caribbean, because I consider myself a true Caribbean citizen. My entire professional career was spent in education. I've never been out of school in my entire life, in one capacity or another, either as a student, a professor, administrator. That's been my world. I'm perhaps best associated with a program I created in Texas about 30 years ago. And I'm delighted that all three ladies on this panel are my alumni. I have been to Dominica 25, 30 times since 1993, have a real love for the place, and certainly care about the students and the young people and their aspirations.
Yes,
I'm currently
and we are
at
very
Western
proud
Illinois
to be.
University, and again, in a different position with a little bit more responsibility. Associate VP, responsible for global affairs and all things related to international interactions. We have a great affiliation with Dominica State College, with the government of Dominica. We currently have almost 100 Dominican students attached in some form or another, either as applicants or current students. And of course, I expect to continue to provide great opportunities for Dominican and Caribbean students.
Yes, and we're all proud to have been a part of the Midwestern State University bunch that you brought up at the time. And, it's so interesting that the time goes by so quickly, because now it's almost like, 27 years since you first recruited us to come on over to Midwestern State University. So we are very elated that you're here with us. So now we would like to go over to Mr. Simeon Joseph as he gives us our introduction. And of course, we're always grateful that Mr. Simeon Joseph takes some time to be a part of our program. So as you're doing your introduction, Simeon, I want us to begin the conversation. So just keep in mind that what we are talking about is, are we missing out on financial opportunities? Because we, and when I say we, I mean Dominicans, people from Caribbean origin, the Caribbean region as a whole, are we missing out on financial opportunities because we are not pursuing the right career paths in Dominica, whether we're in Dominica or we're overseas? So just introduce yourself and then let's get right into the conversation. I think you're muted.
Yeah, where do I begin to introduce myself after these illustrious and very prominent persons who have gone before me? Before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge Ophelia, one of my first form teachers at the grammar school. So you see, I always talk about the cycle of life, and how things happen to come around, when we're young. But basically, what can I say? I'm not going to say much about myself. I never do anyway, except to say there's a few things that I like to say about myself. I was born in the most beautiful village of Dominica, Calabishi, without a doubt. I'm a proud Calabashian. I believe this is a village with a lot of potential. So I like to big up my village whenever I am asked where I come from. Very happy to know that I am from the village of Calabishi because it has a lot to offer. I've been an educator for quite a bit of my life in various fields, either through church, through community, or through educational leadership and management, or by teaching itself, or even at a university level. Okay, that's the first thing. In terms of the topic at hand, what we are dealing with career, I mean, again, one of the things about me, rather than talking about my accomplishments, is I have certain philosophies about life, okay? And one of my first philosophies of life is to demand more of yourself than others would expect of you, okay? That I have tried to endow into the minds of many of the young people whom I would have come into contact with. Incidentally, Alfina Paris, I was once principal of the Marigot Foundation High School before it became Marigot. So, I'm just watching all the connection with all of us, and I would even mention the connection with Simone here tonight. Okay, but nonetheless, I believe in young people. Okay, I believe that if we provide our young people with the right environment, with the right opportunities, with the right foundation, and with the right guidance, they will flourish in whatever fields that they would have gone into. Okay, and so I think that the future of the Caribbean and Dominica can be bright if we tap into the right potential of our human resource base, and we develop our young people to the level whereby, and indeed our population, to a level whereby they optimize the best of who they are and what they can become, so that they will bear fruit in our societies. I am one person who has mourned the fact that a lot of our Caribbean, the best of our Caribbean people are no longer in the Caribbean. I mourn that. And I think that has come about because we in the Caribbean have not tapped into the resources of our Caribbean people. Okay? And so we find that many of them would have to leave and go and flourish on the other side, or as we would say, flourish other people's countries. Okay, when we look at that, because the Caribbean people have been known to make lasting impressions worldwide, globally. And I think as well that if we allow our people, if we invest rightly in our young people, and if we provide for them the proper career paths, and most importantly, if we will show a little more appreciation to our Caribbean professionals and academics, then we will be the ones who stand to benefit more from that investment into our young people. Okay? Other than that, the most I can say about myself, I think I've already started the ball rolling, is to say that I have studied various areas: philosophy, theology, sociology, events management, facilities management, psychology, counseling, and many areas of that nature. Now, why am I saying that? I'm not saying that to boast about my accomplishment, but I am saying that to say that as human beings, we have within us the capacity to learn and to open up ourselves to various disciplines. Now, the more we are able to expose ourselves to learning, the better human beings we can become. And if we become better human beings, then our societies in turn will become better societies.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for getting the ball rolling on the conversation. Anyone wants to make a contribution based on what Simeon just said?
Yes, I can jump in on two areas. First of all, some of us have to leave in order to make Dominica better and contribute. So, like you say, sometimes the investment is in the human capital. So sometimes the human capital has to go out, get it, and then come back to build the country. And also by being outside, some of us contribute. Like for example, Alifia and I are recruiting students from Dominica to help improve, themselves and the country by extension. And the second thing, Simeon mentioned, what was it? It just left me. Yes, students or people not getting investments, not being invested in, like our youth not being given the investments they need to develop themselves. And I want to add to that also a big part of it is confidence. Because when I speak to certain students about um, getting their next degree or just completing, you have your associates. What about your bachelor's? They're like, oh, I'm not sure. Am I smart enough? Will I have enough money to finish? Instead of just putting their foot out, taking the chance, being up to the challenge, a lot of it is like mindset. So I feel a lot of it, we have to change our mindset and be more proactive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dr. Glenn, Alithia, any comments?
So I just want to add to what Terry just said in terms of with some of us having to leave. And I also believe that we have to leave so we can learn what's going on out there. What are the good things that we can harness so that we can one day when we return to our country, that we can make valuable contributions. I will tell you, I taught for 10 years before I left Dominica. But when I reflect on that period of time, I can now think, having been trained in the field of education, I reflect on that and think of all the changes that I would make if I would go back to those years. Unfortunately, we can't go back in time. But I have learned so many things out here that through the work that I do, helping Dr. Glean recruit students for several years now, I am able to share that experience with them and show them what are the benefits of coming out to live in Dominica and going overseas to study, and some of the skills that they can harness from out here to be able to make that contribution to Dominica. And you don't have to be on location for you to contribute. When I speak to students back home or colleagues back home and share my experience of what I'm working, where my work takes me, and some of the areas that I'm able to impact, it's we have technology. It's a conversation, and we have many ways to be able to facilitate that conversation and share the knowledge that we have gained out here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and as I come to you, Dr. Glenn, let's start looking at the careers that we're seeing now in high demand. Because, when I went to college, a lot of us chose areas like psychology, political science, general business. So the last program you did with Matt, I was astonished when you started listing the careers that are now in high demand. So kind of just walk us through some of the careers in your professional experience that you're seeing in high demand. And anyone can chime in once Dr. Glenn has made his contribution.
Yeah, thank you, Simone. Well, one of the things I don't want to do, I'm glad that Simeon kind of jumped on that with me. But one of the things I don't want to do is tell someone what each individual should do. But I'll speak in general terms to say that, you're really not giving universities, if that's the path you choose, enough credit, or you're not really processing the value added component enough when you tell someone like myself or Terry or Alethea, well, I'm not good in science. So the only thing I really want to do is sociology because it's my passion. You go to universities and you spend money at universities and you pay universities for value added. Someone will teach it, whether it's engineering, whether it's nursing, whether it's any other field, someone is being paid well to teach it, to help you learn it, to guide your learning process. So what you're saying when you recite that, I'm just not good at something is I'm already defined. I'm already stuck. This is my limit. I can't go any further. Well, that's worrisome when I hear a 20-year-old or 19-year-old or 22-year-old for that matter telling me I'm just not good at something, I'm not prepared to learn it. Well, there are a lot of lawyers in Dominica and elsewhere who weren't lawyers at 25. They had to go to law school and learn the law and then became lawyers after. So don't lock yourself out of possible careers. I have one little anecdote, take 30 seconds, I'll share it. I met a 43-year-old attorney in Nigeria several years ago. The lady was abused, a victim of domestic abuse, and she really wanted out. And she whispered, she pulled me aside and said, I'm officially taking my daughter to school, but I'm running away as well. What can I do when I get over this? True story. And I said to her, well, law won't be an option for you as you come over just because the way you were trained, the structure is different. And it wouldn't you can't just walk into a job. You're going to school. What's really in high demand, this is 15 years ago, by the way, is some healthcare, nursing. Even the most devout Christian is not in a hurry to get to heaven. Americans are not really ready to die at 98. So there is always a market for healthcare. So she said, healthcare, me, I hated biology and stuff at school. Nonetheless, she heeded the advice. She came over, and through 4 painful years in Texas, she actually got a nursing degree. Today, I learned about 3 years ago, she's a nurse practitioner, settled, remarried in Dallas. A 43-year-old who was a humanities person in law transformed herself to meet a career that was going to take care of her needs and give her independence. Trust me, 23-year-old brains are a lot easier to nurture than 43-year-old brains. And when you get there, you'll understand. You can learn a lot more at that age. So the careers that are available, we can certainly get to that. But I just want to set the stage to say that don't lock yourself out of any possibility because you haven't been there before. Here's the way to look at it as a young person. I'm going to be in a class full of other people who also don't know the subject. And we're all going to be taught together. Is my aptitude any weaker than theirs? Is my ability to learn any less? Am I inferior? And if you answer no to these 3 questions, you can be anything you want to be. We can certainly get into a few specifics. I don't want to press the tired, almost cliche, STEM. I may have done that to some of you back in your youth. And I don't know if you've forgiven me for it yet. The point is, whatever you choose, if you are good at it, you can make a career and a living out of it. But one of the ways I speak to students is also to add a strategic component. If you are going to the US and your intent is to live in the US, then you have to prepare yourself to be ready for the careers that will get you that opportunity in the US. If your intent is to return to the region, then you're probably better at assessing what will make sense for you here. So I have to be careful when I speak to students, because someone just took me to task recently in Dominica saying, well, not all students want to live in the US. Well, that's true. But again, I go by statistics. Over 90% of the students we've brought to the US, all 3 on this panel, have settled in the US. And the reality is, for a period of time, it is very alluring. The opportunities are there. And you're all 3 making significant contributions to Dominica and the Caribbean right now. And I've always said, from a position of strength, you can do more. So the only thing I would say is, students, start thinking of that thing that will build you. And as you grow and strengthen, you will have the ability to build others and your nation at the same time.
Yes, and I really like the approach you're taking to this conversation, Dr. Glenn. But I think it begs the question, and as I come to the rest of the panel for their comments, it begs the question of passion over profit. Because I think what we find is many people want to follow their passion, because that is what I'm passionate about. I've always been passionate about psychology, but then we have to weigh over, is that passion going to lead to profit? And what I have found in my own experience, and I would love to hear what the rest of the panel thinks, is that sometimes when you choose that passion, you have to figure out a way around it to get to the profit. So you have to be able to keep your mind open to other opportunities. So now we have social media, we have all this technology. So one of the ways I was able to make my psychology degree a little bit more profitable is recognizing that there was a high need in the area of online teaching, right? So I still pursued the passion, but then I recognized where the opportunities were that would bring in the profit. So I think we're having a very candid conversation, and I'm truly grateful that we're having that conversation, because I think many times we get locked into the passion and we have no idea how we're going to pursue that passion and be able to have a decent standard of living, because maybe not all of us want to be millionaires, right? But at the end of the day, we still have to pay our bills, and many of us still have to support families back in Dominica, pay the student loans. So at the end of the day, there has to be a balance. So thoughts, anyone?
So I just want to say that I agree with you, Dr. Matthew, because when I counsel students, one of the things that I share with them is that it is necessary for you to decide what it is that you want to do from two perspectives. I think that all young people who are leaving Dominica to pursue an education, pursue higher learning, should keep their options open. And I say that to mean that if you get the opportunity to remain in the United States, you have that option. If you would like to return to Dominica, home is always home. However, in order to be able to prepare yourself for both worlds, I usually tell them, do what you need to do in order to secure the opportunity. And once you have secured that opportunity, then you do what you love. I loved business. And I came out to left Dominica to pursue a business management degree. And Dr. Glean and I have had this conversation, and Terry Ann, on several occasions, that when I graduated in the United States and, I'm finished and I'm looking at immigration rules and how long I can stay after I graduated, I realized that possibly I wouldn't get that dream job because I did not have a green card. I did not have US citizenship. And so the question was, then what? At that point in time, there were many reasons why I preferred not to return to Dominica. And you mentioned student loans. Yes, some of us do take out significant student loans to study. And so we are looking for that opportunity to be able to meet those commitments. And I had a conversation with my dear friend, Dr. Glean, and he pushed me and redirected me back to my second love, which was education. And I returned there, and I now know that I have two loves, even if I was looking for opportunity and that opportunity took me back to education. And so if I wanted to do anything else right now, even if I am not a science major, I have the opportunity because in the system, living in the United States, there are certain things that you must have. And those of us who live out here know that immigration stability is important. And so certain areas that you choose to study can also lead to that opportunity to remain in the United States. Now, once you have secured that immigration stability, you can return to your country. You can make that contribution. You can remain out here. You can still make that contribution, but you have taken care of your needs by educating yourself, by taking care of your family, and taking advantage of the opportunities that are out here. So again, I'm saying you do what you love, you do what you need to do to secure opportunities, and then you can always do what you love.
Absolutely. And as we come to you, Simeon, I know you want to make a contribution, but I think one of the themes that we're seeing emerging in this conversation is the idea that probably our students, and even those of us who are old and we're looking to change careers, we probably should not lock ourselves into a particular career, but rather remain open to the possibilities, yes, based on your passion, but also based on the standard of living that particular career will afford you. So Simeon, I want to come over to you.
Okay, well, just to touch on your last note, although that's not what I was going to say, let us not forget education is the stepping stone out of poverty and into economic independence and prosperity. Okay? When we look at many of our countries, I always say to myself, as a young man growing up, and when I would drive by Fokole, Dr. Glynn may not know about Fokole, but we would know Fokole, right? As a young child, Fokole was a ghetto, right? Place made up of galvanized and cut fish boxes. Okay? And very few people who came from Fokole were anything but fishermen or port workers. Today, when you look at the demographics of Fokole, the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, there are many persons. And it's simply because people from these areas had the opportunity to educate themselves and to rise out of poverty. To the extent that what they are doing now, you have this whole regeneration of wealth, whereby they are able to build up their parents, their grandparents, their brothers and sisters. And whenever I drive going out of town, when I look at Fokole, a sense of pride is evoked in me. Because if anyone remembers the Fokoles of the 60s and the 70s, and what it looked like and what it is today, there is no doubt that it is because of education that many of these people have been able to rise. And so you can see now big houses on top of the hill at Fokole. Let's not forget that. But to what I wanted to say, so two key words have came up here tonight. And opportunities and passion. The word opportunities have been mentioned quite a lot. But when we think of opportunities, we have to think of two things. Two words: closed opportunities or open-ended opportunities. And why I say closed opportunities is this, because you see, sometimes there are many people who can get a degree just to say they have a degree, just to put a credential behind their name, just to say, well, okay, I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, and sometimes that can be very much part of the landscape of persons who have studied. It's like a chip on the shoulder. It's like some aggrandizement accolade to say I have a degree, and it stops there. And sometimes you ask yourself whether it's worth it to pursue higher education, because you do not see the output from the quote-unquote academics and university graduates. What contribution do they make? They make very little contribution to their societies, for instance. They make very little contribution to their workplace. As a matter of fact, sometimes these people are more antagonistic in the workplace towards superiors and co-workers who may not be so academically achieved as they are. So that's closed-ended opportunity. What we need to look at is the open-ended opportunity, where passion comes in. And that's what we need to promote, that with pursuing any form of further education is an open-ended opportunity that will take you to places whereby once you would have pursued education, you put your passion into it. Now, I would like to say with passion comes purpose, and with purpose comes persistence. Because it's one thing to have passion, it's another thing to have purpose to that passion. Okay? And so when you determine that, when you ask yourself, what is my purpose in life? Why am I pursuing this degree? Why am I going for a bachelor's and for a master's? What is the purpose that I am here? Why am I pursuing this degree? What is the purpose? Okay? And it can be many things. Okay? It could be because you feel, well, okay, you want to build up on the how you call it, the professional base of wherever you are. It could be because you think you would like to pursue some form of studies that is going to lead to further enlightenment, okay, and increase of knowledge and etc. Or it could be that you would want to just become more financially sound, or you would like to ensure that you contribute to the economic development or the societal development, the political advancement of certain people, and that could be the purpose of so that is necessary. And if one is to fulfill their purpose, there must be persistence, and that is what I'm hearing from people like Dr. Toulon. And even everybody here tonight, you have to have that persistence. You have to have that drive. You have to have that energy that says, okay, while I have a passion and I know my purpose, where does persistence comes in ensuring that I maximize the opportunity to ensure that when I maximize that opportunity, there is enough what you call gratuitous satisfaction of why I am doing this. Because sometimes you can be an academic and become very latent, become very disappointed, almost become some you could call it a wasted talent. Okay, and that is where sometimes it comes in, and sometimes you have to ask yourself, just to be on a little to play devil's advocate on the critical side, sometimes you have to ask yourself, but why does that person have a bachelor's, or why that person have a master's? Just by their very outlook of life, their very thinking, their very utterances, their associations. Because to me, and you guys here may be more experienced than I am in all of this, Dr. Randy, etc. Anytime one becomes engaged in academia, it's towards the betterment of something. And if as a fulfilled academic or a graduated academic, you cannot lead to the fulfillment of something, it means therefore that your career path becomes stunted, so to speak. You know what I mean? And that is why I think, if just to end, while we are promoting career advancement, while we might be promoting academic advancement, and I like, Dr. Randy, the example you made of the nurse. Now, that is transitional. That's transitional, because in our Caribbean societies, no one would hardly think of moving from being a lawyer to a nurse. People would see that as a backward step, okay? But yet, you highlighted the opportunity of the geographical impediment of coming to the United States, knowing that the prospectus is in healthcare. And so you tap into that opportunity for you to develop yourself. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing where I'm going with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I see where you're going.
And let us not, in closing, let us not underestimate the fact that right now in 2022, there are, you could say, thousands and millions of opportunities for academic advancement than, say, they were 20, 30 years ago, either in Europe or the United States or Canada. And so we have to appreciate that and emphasize that with our folk, our young people, our adults, our middle-aged people, that education is not finite, okay? It's infinite. And as long as you are alive and you would like to optimize your worth, so to speak, then you would tap into the opportunities that there are, to follow your passion, okay, to live a purposeful life, and to be persistent in your quest for success.
Yes, thank you, Simeon. Thank you so much. I think we are now seeing there's so much more to consider when we look at pursuing different educational paths. But Terry, before I come to you, I just want to make sure that we're covering all aspects of this topic. So I just don't want us to focus on only academic careers, but maybe careers that don't require academic degrees, because there are folks who are better suited maybe for a skill, a trade in order to earn a living. And I'm so happy we're having this conversation, because one of the news reports I recently heard is that Walmart is now paying their beginning truck drivers up to $110,000 in the first year, and that is up from $88,000. So as I come over to you and the rest of the panel, I want us to keep in mind that we're not only referring to careers that require an academic degree. So your thoughts, Terrian?
Yes. So earlier I mentioned mindset, and Simeon kind of brought me back to that. A lot of times, to advance ourselves, we need to change the way we think. We need to adopt a growth mindset. Instead of seeing things as challenges, look at them as opportunities to grow. If we get a setback, look at it as a lesson, and that will kind of open doors for us. And so, like, I teach high school, and my students, most of them are academically driven. And in one of my classes the other day, a student said, "Oh, I'm not going to college." Everyone went, "What? What do you mean you're not going to college? What's wrong with you?" So he said, "Well, my dad is an electrician. I want to be an electrician. And the class went, "Are you crazy? You need to go to college. You're in Massachusetts. You need to go to college. We all go to college." I'm like, hold up. So I pulled up statistics of what beginning electricians make after a 6-month program. And all of them were shocked. The next day, another kid came and said, "Guess what? I'm looking into plumbing." So a lot of times they kind of follow the mob. Everyone is doing this, so I need to go there. And what I do, for example, with my advisory or my homeroom, it's a period where I get to talk to them about life, about their career choices, kind of like an informal conversation. And a lot of them don't get the guidance to kind of explore other things. And part of it is the pressure of people around them. It could be family, it could be peers, and so on. But they don't explore, they don't open themselves, they don't research. So I use opportunities like that to help them. But what we have seen in the US recently, some people call it the great resignation. A lot of people are leaving a lot of blue collar jobs. They are leaving teaching, they are leaving healthcare, and COVID had a part to play in that. So I'm like, look, a lot of people are retiring, running away from these jobs. So they are open. Like Walmart is paying their CDL drivers more because they need people to carry their goods from one place to the other. So I think the career exploration part is missing, and also the
Yeah.
mindset change.
Yes, and as I come over to you, Dr. Glenn, I want to expand on what Terrian just said, because I truly think it is a major challenge. So how do you address that? Because I think many times students follow the passions of their parents, right? So the careers that were in high demand in the 60s and the 70s and came with high esteem, because we have to take into consideration the role of esteem, right? Because some folks want to be doctors and lawyers because it's a high esteem job. But really, is that your passion? So let us kind of start talking about the challenges to persuade students to potentially take a different path. And I know, Dr. Glenn, you've had many, many, many conversations with many, many students over the years to try to encourage them to pick a different path. So we've already mentioned the fact that it may be influenced by their parents, but have you noticed any other factors that come to play as students hold on to quote unquote traditional careers rather than pursuing the ones that are more lucrative at this time?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this has been really inspiring to listen to. So let me just date myself a little bit and go backwards, just kind of like Simeon did. So there was a mindset that I think is colonial that was imposed on us, where we put a value on white collar jobs and a status value on it. And unfortunately, that still pervades the mindset of the entire Caribbean, myself included. So we see those people who are highly educated as being a cut above. Well, there's one way to look at it, is just break it down a little bit to real life. And, you're in the club on Saturday night and the plumber can buy more drinks than the doctor. So who's got the prestige? And perhaps when we look at it that way and we get comfortable within ourselves saying, hey, I have self-actualized within myself. I don't have to feel inferior to you with all your degrees, because frankly, I live in as nice a house as you. I drive what you drive. I can eat what you eat. I can take the same vacations you can. And by the way, I can employ other people and work on my own schedule. If I'm a plumber, if I'm an electrician, after a hurricane, I'm way more important than you, because when the schools are all shut down, someone needs to rebuild them. Someone needs to rebuild the houses. So I think we do have to step outside of the standard track of get educated, get more educated, says the guy with 4 degrees, and then think in terms of really, who are we? Every last one of us on this panel has some sort of entrepreneurial thing going on. Most of us started to nurture that later, after we went through a whole education process and being employees. Well, for a young person, it's instructive for them to, if they do have a skill set or if they do have an idea, to remember it's perfectly okay to follow the entrepreneurial as opposed to the educational track. Bill Gates does not have a college degree, and many other highly successful people are not highly traditionally educated. Certainly, we are locked into the fool and his money is soon parted, but wisdom is not always tied to academic achievement. So you could, while lifting yourself in school, you could also be pursuing an entrepreneurial enterprise. A lot of my students now, particularly the graduate students, the IT students, computer science students, mostly Indian and Nigerian, they have already started doing things. Even if it's Forex or trading in crypto, they started something entrepreneurial because they want a quality of life that we all thought we would get from being highly educated and getting a good job and working till we're 60 and then retiring and then trying to see the world in a wheelchair. They want to see the world when they're 40. They want to retire early. That's a new dream. And so they can pursue multiple tracks. But let me come back to one thing that's a little specific that you asked me earlier, and I sort of sidestepped. If we are speaking of those who are going to school, we have to also recognize that the professions have changed from the 70s and 80s. So mom and dad may be influencing you, doctor, lawyer, teacher, the things they know. They have a 70s mindset. The professions of today don't work that way. You don't just study geography. You study geographic information systems. The whole the whole DNA project has opened up a whole bunch of inquiry, a whole bunch of career pathways. We talk to students, well, I like biology, I think, but have you heard of bioinformatics? Have you heard of biomedical science, biomedical engineering? Have you heard of all these fields that have just literally blossomed in the wake of the technological interaction with just about every discipline? So back in the 70s, you say, well, there was a new gadget and the Japanese will make one and add an AM, FM radio or whatever to it. They were leading the world, with sponsored technology, just starting to this whole innovation explosion. Now, I wouldn't today go get a PhD in political science. I would not if I were a young person. But 30 years ago, that was a different world. The world of today demands that you have an interface with technology, a profound understanding of it, not just play with the phone all day and not know how to use it for professional purposes. You have to embrace that the hard science, the technology pervades every single career. Even if you are going to be that CDL driver, you're going to have to interface and interact a lot with technology. The trucks of today aren't like the Big Mac trucks of the past. Everything is essentially a computer. Everything has artificial intelligence somewhere in it. So while you are looking at all the things you can do, even while you are in school, it may come to you accidentally in the part-time job. It may come to you just because you get locked out of the world in which you want to pursue, as happened to Ali. And immigration realities and other things might lead you into a completely different track, which may end up being not only lucrative, but fulfilling. It is important to be fulfilled in what you do. I have not worked for many, 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 many years. It's not work to me. I love what I do. And everyone should be so lucky to change lives and really enjoy every day. Even when you work 12 hours, you still feel good about it. That could come, but not everyone gets to do that unless you first pay the price. You have to do the due diligence. You have to do either the school or the pain building a business, whatever it takes. It doesn't come overnight. You have to find that dedication to pursue it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Alithia, I want to come over to you for your comments. And then Lambi, we want to ensure that we take some phone calls. So after Alithia, we will provide the phone numbers for anyone who would like to call into the program. And of course, we will jump over to Facebook to see what the comments are, because I'm seeing some very good comments on the Facebook Live. And then once we've had an opportunity to engage our audience, the next thing I want us to talk about is the difference between earning money and a career. Because I think now what we are seeing is there's a shift. Many young people now that I hear from parents, they're more interested in becoming a YouTuber, being an Instagram influencer. So we're just talking about the realities. We're having a candid conversation about whether students should be looking to pursue a career, or should they simply just chase the almighty dollar be able to work whenever they want to work. Whenever you want to make a YouTube video, you can go ahead and make your YouTube video and then chill for the rest of the time. So I think these are all very important questions and considerations. So Alethea, let's come over to you for your comments, and then Lambi, we will take some phone calls.
Yes, I think in terms of non-academic disciplines, there are opportunities and lots of opportunities, but I think we need to look at our education system and how we provide those opportunities. For example, when we talk about non-academic disciplines in the system that I work, I see that we have 29 disciplines where our students can go to what we call our career education center, and they can select a skill, possibly in the area of cosmetology. And that leads me right into what you just introduced, what we are going to focus on in the next segment. I think you can have the best of both worlds. You can have a career, and you can use that, whether it's academics or non-academic disciplines, you can use that to marry, to get a perfect marriage with being like a content creator. I spend a lot of time looking at vlogs on YouTube, and I see a lot of content creators who have used their cosmetology skills, and they are creating content with those skills and putting that out there. And we talk about YouTube and how we can get money by making those vlogs and putting the content out there. So I think you can have the best of both worlds. I also think that it is important for locally within the Caribbean region in Dominica for us to create those opportunities for our students to be able to get the skill set in those non-academic areas. What is that looking like, and where are the opportunities that we can ensure that we have the plumbers and we have the electricians? I think natural disasters creates a perfect storm and exposes the need for such talents and skills within our community. I remember speaking with my mom after Maria, and she was seeking out people to do different jobs for her. And the difficulty, because everybody had the same demand, and we did not have enough. The supply was not there. And so we need to look within our system locally to see how we can facilitate within our education system the ability for students to graduate from high school and have that certificate, have that skill set that they can use those skills to make money. That's what happens out here. A student graduates from high school with a certified nursing assistant certificate. And even if they go on to college to study and get some degree, they can work and also earn money to help to pay for that degree because of that skill and that certificate that they have graduated with. And so I think there is a lot in terms of not just focusing on degrees in the field of academia, but also looking at how opportunities can be created both locally and internationally for our students or persons who would like to pursue those areas where we are strapped and in need of those specific skills.
Yes, thank you, Alethea. So Lambi, let me come over to you so you can give out the phone numbers and we can take some calls.
Roots Connection and Q. The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. The overseas access number is 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers again. 449-3095, 9697, 616-4257, 305-432-9624. And we're taking your calls right now.
Yes, and as we await your calls, let's see what's going on Facebook. So we say a pleasant good evening to Jennifer Coffey, David Joseph, always great to see you, Juanita Prince, Anithia Adams, Afua, we in the house. I think that one was for you, Alithia.
Big up,
Ophelia
big up.
Marie, good evening. Terry Olivache, Bino, I think you meant good evening, everyone. Ophelia, Maslin Edwards, yes, Marigot in the house, New Jersey. Let's see who else we have with us. K Love, big up a four. Oh wow, a lot of support coming in. Terry Ann, I mean, what's going on? We're chopped liver. Nobody acknowledging none of us. Simeon, Randy, what's going on here?
My
It's
people know
all
how
for
to represent.
Huawei country. You said something?
I said my people know how to represent.
They do, they do. Dr. Emmanuel Finn, great to see you on the program this evening. Carol Olivache Bruni, my niece Terry, I'm so proud. Let's see, Josephine William, Nito Amin Trading, Agnes Romney, Carl Kofi James, good evening to the entire panel. So thank you everyone for being here. Nunes Simaj, Rosalind Sevra is here, good to see you. Claraline, good night to everyone. I'm locked in. Very interesting program as always. Thank you. Leon Lando, always great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Anthony Simon. Leon says, great discussion with great perspective. Thank you for that. Pyro Pascal, thank you for being here. And Nunes has a comment for all of us. Is there a database or association of Dominican students in the United States? What about having a mentorship program both for students already in the US and potential students back at home? What an excellent question. Anyone wants to jump on that question? Do you need me to repeat it?
No,
I
think
think
it's a
it does
fantastic
exist.
idea.
Informally, it does exist. I mean, we interact with literally hundreds, myself and Terry and Ali. I can add David Vital in that. We interact with a lot, hundreds of students. And we do more. I mean, I think they're selling themselves short when they say recruit. We prepare. We do a lot of Zoom sessions. And throughout the pandemic, we've done a lot of nurturing, a lot of soft skills training. So we are actively engaged in preparing students for life, not just for education.
Right. And I think what we can probably do, because we have such an incredible platform here on Q95, is potentially open it up to even more students, because I think what we're seeing is the need to involve even more students so they already know that there's an organization, even if it's in an informal one, that already exists to probably guide them, to help them not get locked in to a particular career, but to keep an open mind about the possibilities. Because as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, well, so much of it depends on where you eventually want to settle, right? So do you want to settle in the US or do you want to come back to the Caribbean? Because the career options, the implications for your career, they're different if you choose to pursue a career in the US versus the Caribbean. Thoughts?
Yeah, but let's be a little more global, eh?
Yes.
There is Europe, and there's Africa, and there's
Yes.
and
Yes.
in the 60s and 70s, we had Dominicans going to Africa and Italy and all those places. Dr. Benjamin and Miss Dr. Liverpool and Dr. Georges. I mean, being the first chief justices of places like Zimbabwe, etc., and the Dominicans who have gone abroad. So it goes beyond the United States. While this might be the most obvious opportunity, but it goes beyond in terms. But I think I like this idea of which is very germane. And Dr. Randy alluded to the fact, but I think where it has to begin, you see, is that we need to direct our young people's mind to proper career paths. And it cannot begin on the completion of high school. It cannot begin at the Dominica State College, because remember, our students choose subjects in third and fourth form in secondary schools. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what foundations or what enlightening opportunities and discussions do we have with our high school students in third form and second form, so that when they are choosing the subjects for quote unquote CXC, they already have a forward vision of where they would like to be life. Because you see, one of my criticisms of our education system in the Caribbean is that it's very homogeneous. Okay? Every secondary school in Dominica teaches the same thing. We have a set structure from first to fifth form. And we know that when students reach fourth form, they have the same slate of subjects. There is very little innovation. There is very little forward thinking in, okay, what other dimensions of education can we have? Okay, and even if CXC is the ultimate examination point for Caribbean students, can there be other examination points? Because let's face it, our young people in the Caribbean today are open to many. Why can't some of our secondary schools in Dominica, for instance, have GSAT exams? Okay? Why can't some of our secondary schools in the Caribbean have exams that can prepare students to go to other universities around the world? Because it seems that for what we have done, we have tailor-made and boxed in our education system and our examination system to suit an endemic area. Okay? And we need now in 2022, and I'm sure Dr. Randy, when we look at the list, or many of you here, the list of professions that are available for young people, how many of our young people are mindful, even at the state college level, of the number of business disciplines there are, or the number of educational disciplines there are, or science disciplines, or IT disciplines there are? Are we opening up their thinking to that global perspective of career path and career development, that we don't just narrow them down to a set of courses that gives them the impression that that's all you can do in your life? Very much like how it was before. We had that strata form of education. You become a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a nurse, a policeman, a plumber, a carpenter. We have transcended that. We have moved beyond that. Because when you look at societies today and the needs of societies, and sometimes I feel I'm dominating the floor too much, when you look at the needs of the global society, when you look at the needs of the global world in which we live in, there are all sorts of disciplines and professions that people can enter. And make no mistake about it, I heard the word skill mentioned tonight. Skills are things that all of us have to be able to do. I'm not one who differentiates between skills and technical. In Dominica, we have this anatomist discussion taking place where if students cannot learn, we must send them to do a skill. Hey, even a doctor and a lawyer needs to know a skill. Okay? And so we mustn't think that because people are less, quote unquote, academically inclined, that we put them at the bottom of the ladder where they learn to use their hands. No, even people with the smartest brain must learn to use their hands. And even people with the most skillful hands must learn to use their brain.
Absolutely.
Because that's what human development is about. And once we understand human development, we will then begin to understand the whole concept of human resource development. One of the other sad realities we have had in the Caribbean is that almost every Caribbean government has had a Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development. But very few of them have developed that idea of human resource development. When we talk about human resource development, we are basically talking about development of people. We are basically talking about personal development, professional development, organizational development, performance administration, and human resource. And just all those things encompass human resource development. And so we have to ask ourselves, to what extent are we as a people promoting personal development, our aptitudes, our attitudes of our Caribbean people? What kind of Caribbean citizens are we developing? Professional development. I mean, it's one thing to have a degree, but what about the aspect of our lives where we have this professional development, whereby we look at the areas of social integration, so that apart from just having a degree, we become fully integrated human beings. What about organizational development? And so all of those things, to my mind, create the platform upon which we sell the idea of career paths and career development. Because we need to invite our young people, as I said, and another thing, many schools have things called career days. And as you look around, you just see them without any proper planning. They just say, okay, let's put it an idea on the school calendar. So students just come and they dress as nurses and doctors and lawyers. But what is the prior educational and informational sessions that go into those career days, so that when children decide, okay, I'm having a career day at school, their mind is open to the multiplicity of opportunities that there are, so that as they're in the school system, they begin to generate their thought process into, hey, I never heard of that before. Perhaps I could pursue that. But that must be linked to the wider concept of human development. Otherwise, you see, and a situation where you have so many people doing sociology, and I think in Dominica right now, almost 7 out of 10 graduates have done business degrees, and they come back and they are being tellers in the bank, for instance. We have how many people doing sociology and psychology, and so you ask ourselves, how many psychologists can you have per capita? How many sociologists can you have per capita? How many business people with business degrees can you have per capita? Okay, and so we have to look at all of this when we are speaking of career paths, when we're speaking of post-secondary, tertiary education. I think all those things are integrated and they are linked. If we have to give a good picture as to maximizing, which is the topic tonight, the career paths of our people. And again, tied to that has to be the prioritization of funding. Okay? Because you have places like the financial institutions who maybe have policies as to, but how do you prioritize? Because I have known, for instance, many young people who have chosen to pursue studies in unknown fields, and the banks refuse to fund, or the government refuses to sponsor. Okay, I have known young people who have gone to financial institutions for financial assistance, and they say, "Oh, we don't fund that because it's not on our portfolio."
And I think as well, Simeon, what we have to also recognize is there needs to be a national policy with regards to, well, we have this X amounts of people who have already pursued sociology, X amounts of people who have already pursued psychology. So what are the needs of Dominica? What are the needs we're trying to fulfill in Dominica? And what do we need you to consider studying in order so that you can come back and make a valuable contribution to Dominica? So I think what we're seeing is a combination of an antiquated approach to education, right? As well as, the need to integrate technology. And Terry, as I come over to you, I think one of the things that we don't realize is that because of technology, someone like me can work from anywhere in the world. So what are the other career opportunities that now exist so that someone who maybe does not secure, a green card to stay in the States, does not get a company to sponsor them, you can pursue that degree and still be able to be gainfully employed in Dominica? And I see Dr. Glenn nodding his head, so we're going to come over to him next.
Yes, I mean, there are so many factors, but one, your passion, of course, the profitability, and also your placement. So if you decide to stay in the US, these are the X amount of opportunities available to you. If you decide to come back home to Dominica, what is available to you? We are the nature island of the Caribbean. There are a lot of natural resources that are not, in my opinion, not being maximized, and some people have very good ideas, but they don't have the financial support, not just to go out to study, but also to develop an industry or a service that they are interested in. They need that startup fund, that initial capital, and some of them don't have it. So I see and hear about opportunities in agro processing, both locally and in the US, and with organic products, organic plants, and so on. I'm hearing a lot about education, not just because that's my main field, but I keep hearing about the lack of quality education in the Caribbean as well as in the US. What I'm seeing in the US is a lot of quality teachers retiring because the stress of the job is too much for them. And I asked them about the stress, and some of the things they mentioned, I'm like, okay, I understand COVID, I understand the changes, but the things as teachers in Dominica, the things we go through
Mhm.
doesn't compare to
Compare.
what we're retiring over. So, and STEM fields, as you can see, they are in very high demand and they are rewarded by the immigration system of the US and of other countries, European countries that I know of. So, but everyone is not STEM inclined. And why they do not explore all the STEM fields? You know, I always say I'm not a science person, I'm a languages person, even a math person, but not a science person. But recently I've been seeing science jobs, especially in marketing and information technology, that I could do. So I'm like, oh, that is STEM, you know? So
Mhm.
sometimes we just need to broaden our approach.
Absolutely. And for those in our audience who may not be familiar with STEM, it is science, technology, engineering, and math. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. So Dr. Glenn, as I come over to you for your comments, let's jump into the portion of the conversation, the pros and cons of a career versus being a YouTuber versus being an influencer. Your thoughts on that? You're muted. You're muted.
I said I love that segue. That is perfect. I was going right there, and I'm going to take it with an anecdote. The first thing to remember, whatever it is you're going to do, this is universal. You have to do an assessment. No one should even dive into a swimming pool without an assessment, because if you dive into the shallow end, you're going to break your neck. You have to at least reason and look and make sure you're diving into enough depth so that you can accomplish the dive. ROI, more important than STEM or any other acronym, return on investment. And when you choose education or any other career, it's an investment in yourself. And who better to invest in than you? Well, no rational person makes an investment without making a predetermination of a likely return on that investment. You don't invest just for fun because it's your passion. You want a payoff. When you choose to go to school, that's a payoff. So let's talk for 30 seconds about being a YouTube influencer or an Instagram influencer,
Instagram.
or these careers didn't exist 30 years ago. I get to tell anecdotes. That's what happens when you get old. So back in 1997, I am a young faculty member and I'm back fresh out of school. A lot of people like doctors fresh out of because they're most current. There's some truth to that. Experience matters. But fresh out of school, I get to a place where my department had a bunch of older professors who were not computer literate. So I get there, and even the concept, this wouldn't make sense to anyone today, but 25 years ago, even the concept of attaching a document to an email and sending to a colleague was not something they knew. I went to school as PCs came in, so I was current with that knowledge. So fast forward 25 years later, I don't know the world of Instagram influencers because I'm now almost them. But I stayed current with technology enough to be able to relate to it. And there is nothing wrong with being one of those, but you have to stay current and on the cutting edge of technology. The YouTuber uh, genre is fully mature. It's been there. You're not coming in at the cutting edge. You're not coming in at the inception. So you're jumping on a bandwagon. But if you don't know what's next, you always have to know the next thing. If you choose that career, you could very easily be the guy who's left holding the internet cafe. That was a great investment 25 years ago. It would be a dud today if you didn't recognize that smartphones were coming and portable internet was going to be the reality and you invested in an internet cafe. You would certainly have lost a lot of money. Again, another anecdote. I met one of these influencers, one of these YouTubers who has done really well. I met the guy in Ghana about 8 years ago. His name is Wodemaya. And you could probably look him up. I have to big him up. Calls himself the Village Boy. But he runs a great thing and he has made millions from his stuff. But I met him before he was anything, but he stuck to it. Anything you choose to do, you have to have that determination because thousands of wannabes fell by the wayside while he succeeded. you know. And one thing he must have been taught, I remember while someone was trying to sell me some land in Ghana about 12 years ago, it was out in the countryside a little bit, and I looked at it and thought, I don't want to buy, why would I want to buy land in the bush in Africa? And in a very wise way, he said to me, an older man who was selling, he said, where would you want to buy land? I said, well, I looked at East Legon, that neighborhood there in Accra, that's beautiful. He says, okay, well, let me teach you something, my friend. And I'm going to try to imitate him. He says, you don't buy land in the place that is. You buy land in the place that's coming. That same East Legon that you love was once the bush when I was young. So the point is, you have to be on the cutting edge. You have to be out in front. No matter what it is you're going to do, you have to absolutely. So it's perfectly okay to want to be that next thing, but you have to be prepared to dig deep, to invest in it, to stick to it, to go through that period where it's going to feel like it's just a waste of your time. Let it mature, let it nurture, and run with it. Comparing that to the traditional pathways in education, the same thing applies. It's an investment in whatever it is you're going to do in school.
Yes, and Dr. Green, can I just interrupt you? Can I interrupt you 1 minute? We have a phone call. I'm sorry. I'll come right back to you.
Sure.
The call on the overseas line, are you still there?
Yes, Lambi, I'm still there.
Please go ahead with your call.
And I want to say good evening to Dr. Simone and the entire panel.
Good evening.
It's a very mysterious, I would say, program this evening because I'm listening and I just have to shake my head. But what I find out, what I would say is that for me, the STEM program the U.S. come up with is a very good program because if you have to, for example, I drive trucks. And when I started driving trucks, the GPS wasn't as common. I think only the military had GPS at the time. And I started driving trucks without a GPS. Cell phone just started coming on the scene without a cell phone. And I had to be using the map, the book, you know, it's like a map. Or the dispatch would send me my routing. But today, even if you don't know where you're going, you just put the address in a GPS and it takes you right there.
Yep.
So I think that the STEM program is like the foundation because you could branch out at any time. You know, you could take a shortcut if you're on a road or on a track and you don't like it, as some of the panelists are saying. You could always change the route. You know what I mean? And to me, for example, in Dominica, what we need is a broad national plan, a national development plan. For example, we are about an international airport. But how many students are going out there to be engineers? You know, to fix this aircraft, to maintain them, to fuel the aircraft, to control the skies with technology. So STEM making a lot of sense to me because once you could read it, because I said I never liked technology. And as I said, when I start driving, they will give me a form, I would fill it, my truck number, my company name, and my address, my light driver's license number, my destination, and so on. But today, when I go and pick up a load, these people give me a computer and tell me go on the screen, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So the first time I had to call the lady and tell her to ask her to assist me because I could learn fast hands-on. But when it comes to all this reading and no, I'm very quick on hands-on. So, you know, I work it out, and up to today I got a load of beers, and I check it on a screen. So that's why I'm saying this STEM is to me is very, very important because we got to teach the youth from school, from high school, how to make money. That's what it's really about, how to build wealth, how to elevate ourselves from poverty. That's what it's about. How to help other people build themselves, build our country. It's not just about going to school just to have a degree and then, you know, you go. Because when you go to the Walmart does not ask if you're a doctor, if you're a teacher, if you're a scientist. When you go to this outlet, this name brand outlet, they don't ask you that. All I want to see is that money. And once you got the money, that's all. That's what it's about. You could be a farmer, you could be a doctor, teacher, carpenter, whatever, mechanic, plumber. All these careers are good, but the foundation, you have to have a foundation. Something you like, and you could make money doing what you like, and that's what I'm
Yes,
like.
yes. Thank
It's a
you, caller.
brilliant,
Thank you,
it's a
caller.
brilliant program.
Thank
I
you.
wish a lot of young people listen to this program, and I just want to say hats off to everybody on the panel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, caller. And he is absolutely correct, because that is why we began the program by saying that the change is rapidly coming and it's all around us. And I think he also did an incredible job of telling us how pervasive technology is going to be. Because think about it, when you go to Walmart now, there is one cashier and everything else is a self checkout. So I think those of us who are fighting the change are probably going to set ourselves back. So we're seeing, whether we're talking about education or just life in general, it is worth the effort to learn technology. And I say to folks all the time, if you know how to WhatsApp, you're ready to learn technology, because that means you know how to grab a phone, you know how to get on WhatsApp. Chances are you knew how to install it. So I think many times we spend more time convincing ourselves that something is going to be difficult than rather facing the reality that it's not as difficult as we thought it would be. So Dr. Glenn, back to you and the comments you were making.
I think he made the point I was making. I
Yes.
absolutely the analogy I told about the professors and professors. They're political scientists, by the way, not psychologists. The professors being outdated. Actually know who I'm talking about. They
Yes.
who were outdated at the time, and technology just caught up with them. One of the points that he made that I made a vow myself that would never happen to me. And I have discussions all the time with someone we know well, Neville, who is a computer science person, and we've had this discussion for like 15 years. And whenever he asks me something and I don't know it, he'll say, "Well, don't become." And I say the name. It's my late colleague. I love him. He was my father. He said, "Well, I don't want you to become Dover. So check this out and follow up on this and follow up on that." And the thing I am most proud of, as I have gotten to the age they were, and actually older than they were now, is that I am very current and very comfortable. I can do anything I need to do myself with technology. It doesn't faze me. I'm more proud of that than any degree or anything else I have, is that I was able to stay in tune and keep up with it. I don't dismiss it. I'm not a Facebooker or whatever, but the real technologies of the day, yes. The last point I wanted to make to the students, to come to Simeon's point that he said earlier, in terms of where you study, we need to be a little bit specific occasionally. We spoke of STEM, but data, 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 analysis, 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 period. I could remember, again, being a younger professor coming out and having some sort of a skill set in econometrics and being able to do stats. My colleagues, when they're doing a paper, presenting a paper, they literally use the term, "Okay, well, here's the numbers. Here's what put your mumbo jumbo on it." And because they weren't current with that. And I would literally be on everyone's paper, "Come do your mumbo jumbo," they would say, and put it in. Well, in reality, the world today is driven by data. Data is money. You use WhatsApp, you use Facebook, you use Instagram, you think, "Oh my God, they're giving me all of this free." No, they're not. They're making billions off of you because your behaviors are being logged and tracked, and they're collecting data, and they know everything about you, and they market that. So today, don't do a business degree or finance degree when you can do business analytics or data analytics, or you can do stats or quantitative economics. Back in the old days, we had an actuary, and he was basically using, mathematics and econometrics to do a demographic assessment. That's almost primitive. Today, it's so continuous and so pervasive that every little bit of information is used to get an edge. Everything is a science. So you can't get to the world where you say, I want to do economics, and you think it's the supply and demand and graphs and charts. It's way deeper than that. Economists are mathematicians. They're statisticians. That's what they are today. So try to understand those professions, but go towards them, because that is intermerged with business, it intermerged with commerce, it's intermerged with money making, as the caller rightfully said, and he is not wrong. Anyone who say, well, life isn't just about being money is immature. Frankly, I'm not rich and I'm not hating on the rich at all, because if you are in school, the A student is the top. And if you're in the business world, the rich guy is the top, because that is the prize. That is the point of competition. That is the measure of success. What have you achieved? Nothing wrong with having an aspiration to be rich, and not necessarily through education as well. That great analogy of the guy in the club who can actually buy more drinks for the ladies versus the guy who can brag about his profession. Yeah, I wonder who's going to have more game at the end.
You know, and an important book comes to mind as we're having this discussion, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? I think we're all familiar with that book. That is a great book to read if anybody is interested in this particular topic. But Alethea, let me come to you. Instagram influencer, YouTuber, or earning a career, and then we're going to circle back to everyone as we look at the implications of everything that we're talking about. And I truly want to thank each and everyone on the panel for their incredible contribution this evening. But I want us to come back and take it back home to the Caribbean, and just to talk about the implications for the Caribbean of all that we've discussed this evening. So Alethea, which route are you advising your students towards?
I would like to stay on the technology road for a little bit longer, because, you know, we have a lot of, well, I have a lot of colleagues in Dominica who are in the field of education. They're teachers, they're campus administrators, principals, etc. And again, typically when we think about education, we are, as a career field, we are thinking of teaching, we are thinking of being a campus administrator, but there's so many other opportunities, and those opportunities can be and are tied in with technology. So for example, the pandemic exposed the need for telehealth, teletherapy, and especially in fields where we have speech, the need for speech therapy, the need for evaluations related to diagnosing disabilities, and also the need for providing services. A lot of folks work from home because there are platforms that are established and they can work from anywhere, whether they're in the US, whether they're in the Caribbean. And so within the field of education, if we are as Terry mentioned before, if we think of a growth mindset and we start to expand beyond the classroom and those spin-off services that are needed because of students' needs, we are thinking of the need for physical therapy. We are thinking of the need for occupational therapy. We are thinking of the need for speech therapy. And all of these types of services can be delivered through a telehealth, teletherapy platform. And I can tell you, working in the field of education and seeing how the pandemic created that need when we had students at home because schools were closed, you had companies reaching out because it's all about money. They're getting rich and they are hiring people who can provide these services and contracting out to school districts. For example, you also have the need, Terry talked about teachers leaving the profession. Well, school districts are looking for licensed specialists in school psychology, and they're nowhere to be found. But these services, the work that they do, companies are offering them through a platform online. And so I wanted to put that out there because, yes, we have the content creators, we have the YouTubers, and they are doing their thing. They have to keep up with what's happening in the world of fashion. They keep up with, what will make them relevant. But on the other side, we have those creators who develop platforms and they offer services that traditionally would be offered on location. And so these types of jobs if you are so inclined to merge those skills with technology, you have the best of both worlds. You can work, do what you love, you can make money, and you can do it from anywhere. You could do it like Dr. Glean when he goes to Grenada on a beach somewhere working once you have an internet connection. And so whether you remain in the US, if you come out here and you become a licensed specialist in school psychology, or you become a speech pathologist, you can remain out here, or you could go back to Dominica and you could use technology to develop a platform where you could offer services anywhere in the world. Some of the companies that we contract with to provide these services, they are not based in the United States. Some of the people who are providing the service, they are not based in Texas. They are based in New York. And so we have to see the opportunity within all of these different areas and how technology just transformed. And I have to say the pandemic was a bad thing, but it exposed a lot of opportunities and created a lot of opportunities. I had never been, Dr. Glean talked about being able to be functional and use technology to enhance work. Well, the Google platform, there is so much that we have done with that, and students did not have to be on location. I know in Dominica, they have had the same opportunity where our students are at home and they're learning. Technology transforms, I think, every aspect of our lives.
Yes, thank you for that. And of course, we're going to go to the question of the implications for the Caribbean region. But before we do, let's just remind anyone who tuned in late that you're listening to Roots Connections on Q. I am Simone Mathieu, and today we are joined by Dr. Randy Glean, Miss Terry Ambino, Mr. Simeon Joseph, and Miss Alethea Paris Tulor, as we look at where the lucrative career opportunities are and how we can join these fields for the benefit of Dominica and the benefit of the Caribbean region as a whole. So after we talk about the implications for the Caribbean, I think what we want to spend the last few minutes talking about is that informal organization that both you, Terry, Alethea, and Dr. Glean mentioned, because I think that is an important tool that we probably need to give more of our students exposure to, because as we already talked about, the importance of not being stuck on a certain career path, the importance of being open to opportunities, the importance of, the question in some students' minds, should I become a YouTuber? Should I pursue a career? So I think there's so many questions that are out there for students in terms of what path should they pursue. So I want to talk a little bit more about what can be done. If there's an opportunity, to give this program more exposure, I would love to do so, and how we can integrate more students into this program. So Simeon, let me come over to you, the implications for the Caribbean region based on everything we've talked about this evening. You're muted. You're muted. Simeon, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So one of the things about the Caribbean is that the Caribbean is unique, but it's also very diverse. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at the geographical, the demographical landscape of places like Dominica, it's totally different from say Trinidad or Puerto Rico or Santo Domingo. The uniqueness of the OECS is that we are all almost similar. St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Dominica, we're almost very similar. And so when we're talking about the Caribbean, as I said, it's very diverse. It's extremely diverse. Some countries, however, have been able to advance more in terms of their exploitation of the career path for their young people, if you want to say that way. I think Barbados has done pretty well. I think places like Trinidad, Jamaica have done pretty well. I think even Cuba has done very well in terms of the opportunities that have been created for their citizenry. And so what has to happen, I think it has to be driven by a certain philosophy that drives a certain policy, okay? And so it's not just implementing programs. The question we have to ask is, what is the philosophy that our leaders have, that our governments have, that is going to drive our the career path of its citizenry into the next 20, 30 years? The dynamics are that things change more rapidly now than they did 20, 30 years ago. All right?
Yes.
When you look at all the innovations in technology, for instance, in education, in health, in all the other areas that have taken place in the past 5 to 10 years, I mean, almost every year you have innovations compared to before. So that's one thing. And I think governments have to be wise enough, okay, to be able to look into the future. Because earlier on I spoke about human resource development, to look into the future and ask themselves, where do they want to see their societies in the next 10 to 20 years? That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to have that level of vision. But it has to be created on a solid platform of good research. I don't want to be political, and I don't want to be too critical tonight, or to be politically critical. But let us look, for instance, at my own country, Dominica. And I hope it doesn't create too much of a controversy. But 15 years ago, we said we wanted one graduate in every household. Huh? You remember that? On what basis was that done?
Yes, Simeon, give me 1 minute. Lambi, do we have a call?
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry, Simeon, I'm coming right back to you.
Sure,
Hold
go
that
ahead.
thought.
On the overseas line, please go ahead with your call.
Yes, Simon, let me just show you one more thing again. Just run through my mind. You know, I'm in the U.S. and I'm from Salisbury, Dominica. And I already have somebody in Salisbury find loads for me in the U.S. That's how important and mysterious I tell you this topic is, because science, maths, engineering, and technology, that is the highway. So anything else, everything else has to branch out from these 4 main pillars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could be somebody in Salisbury right now through technology could have a trucking company in the U.S. and staying in Salisbury, working and sleeping in Salisbury, eating in Salisbury, and dispatching these trucks in the U.S. And to me, it's really amazing, Simone, you know. So if I had to do it again, I would have do it differently. But I'm not showing you how important these subjects are: maths, and in science, maths, engineering, technology, or STEM, how you call it. But
Yes, thank
it's
you.
really amazing and mysterious, because, as you said, the careers in 1960s and 70s and even the 80s are not the same careers today.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has changed. You know, so you just have to open your mind, these young people especially, and the foundation, as I said, once you got the foundation of education, because to me, I still think they're defining education wrong, because a lot of us think education is about a doctor, about a lawyer, about a president. But these people cannot operate without the common man, without the plumber, without the man to clean the streets, without the nurses, you know, the teachers, the carpenters, the masons. I mean, it's a puzzle, and you have to put everything together so we could have a complete picture. Anyway,
Yes,
thank you,
yes,
Simone.
thank you. Thank you, caller. Thank you for calling back. Simeon, back to you.
Yes. So as I was saying, coming back to the whole question of philosophy, and in terms of and I'm heading, and I was going to talk about STEM. I'm good thing he mentioned. I'm moving there in a while. The thing is, you see, so we had this policy of one graduate in every household. On what basis was this done? Did we even know how many households there were in Dominica? And what was the population of each household? And what was the youthful population of each population in each household, to determine how many graduates we're going to have in each household? And from that, determine what the needs are so that when we send one member of each household to graduate, it's driven by a policy, a developmental policy, a progressive policy, that education is going to have that hermeneutical cyclic effect of people going to study and coming back, or even staying overseas and make a meaningful contribution to their country. That then would drive where we invest. I mean, we talk about STEM, but STEM is not only IT. STEM is not only engineering. When we look at the science, technology, and engineering aspect of it, how can that contribute to agriculture? So now we come into the Caribbean.
Yes.
How can that contribute to agriculture, for instance? Because STEM, as it is related to Dominica, might be different from how it can be utilized in Antigua.
Absolutely.
Or how it can be utilized in Barbados. So, for instance, when we look at Dominica and we're talking about the future development and how we go to of the Caribbean, we have to look, as I said, it must be driven by a philosophy, because the philosophy will drive the utilization of whatever policies we want to put in place. So, as I said, STEM is an example. How is STEM going to impact on healthcare? How is STEM going to impact on commerce? If we look at the engineering and the technology part, how is it that we're going to develop our young people to utilize that so we can have greater productivity and manufacturing and innovations in commerce, for instance? You understand? That will be applied differently in Grenada than it might be applied in St. Kitts or Jamaica or Trinidad or Guyana or those places there. And so we need to look at what do you call it now? Developing, as I said, philosophies that will drive programs. Because I am one person who believes that education must be for the benefit of society and the development of peoples. Outside of that, I think it's vacuous. And I'm not sure people might agree with me. But if education does not contribute to the development of people and the advancement of society, I think it's of no worth.
Right. Thank you.
And for the Caribbean to grow and for our societies to grow, all of us are Dominicans with our Grenadian friend. And I cannot not mention that as a proud disciple of Maurice Bishop, he may not agree with me, but as a proud disciple of Maurice Bishop, I saw what Maurice Bishop was doing in the Grenada Revolution of the 79 and 80. His thrust to reform the Grenadian society into literacy, into agriculture, into production. And I think this is what we need to do as we talk about career paths. And so that, just in closing, our young people can be inspired. They need to be inspired and to know that, okay, there is some motivating factor. There is some inspiring light that says, okay, to put it bluntly, this is what I want to do with my life. And when I do that with my life, the contribution of my life to my society is going to be meaningful and lasting, I think, and the world at large.
Yes, very well said. Thank you so much, Simeon, for your contribution. And by the way, Dr. Glynn almost had a Dominican passport, so we can call him a Dominican as well. So because he spent so much time in the islands, including Dominica. So Terry, let me come over to you and just tell us about that program, because I think there's an opportunity to do a lot more in order that other students, especially the students in the Caribbean region, can benefit from. So what else can you tell us about this particular informal organization where you guys reach out to hundreds of Caribbean students?
So it's almost a symbiotic relationship where sometimes students reach out to us, sometimes we reach out to them. But basically, some of them come and they say, I need to get out, or I need to go to study. I don't know what I want to study. I just need to go. So we start the discussion. What are you interested in? What's your experience? And then we go from there. Would you like to work in the US, work in Dominica? Should you look at a career that you can use in both, wherever you are in the world, or do you want to make it localized to one area? So it's kind of like guiding them based on their choices and also telling them about our story, our struggle. So a big part of it is some people see us and they're like, oh, Alifia is the director of special ed. Wow. But how did she get there? What is
Absolutely.
the process? What did she have to go through? And some people expect a handout. Some people expect a full scholarship that hardly exists in the world anymore. So we kind of guide them and show them you have to invest in yourself in order to reap the rewards. And most of them see it, they ask us questions. So it's like sometimes we connect them with other people. So my focus is education and business. They're interested in fine arts. I know this person, so let me extend you to that person in my network. That said, from the time the person said on the Facebook Live, the Facebook comments, that we should have a mentoring system, I spoke to someone from Point Michelle a few years ago, and we wanted to set up something that never kicked off. But I like the idea. I think it can be formalized. So even if we have our informal/formal network, maybe we could do that. Is one of the things we could do in Dominica. Have a formalized mentoring network.
Yes, thank you. And I think that is something I would be very interested in. I want to get some contact information if you have any that students can reach you on. But I think we have a call coming in. So Lambi, let's take your call. Terry, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I think that person has given up, so you can continue.
Okay, so the person can call back. Yes, so Terry, is there any contact, email, phone number, anything if someone is listening, maybe a young person, a not so young person who might want some more information? Is there any contact you can share for now? Okay, we have the call coming back, so I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Caller, please go ahead with your call. Caller, are you paying attention?
Okay, so back to you, Terry.
Yes, they could contact me at terryconsulting@gmail.com. So terryconsulting@gmail.com. They could also WhatsApp me on 781-580-8019. So 781-580-8019, and we could continue the conversation. And then something else that we could do, it could be on a school basis, on a community basis, because I see what Simeon is saying, that we need a national vision driven by the government to change the perspective, but we can also do it ourselves. So for example, we have a career exploration week that we do at the school where I teach. And I believe that representation matters. I'm the only Black teacher there. When there's that career exploration, I pull all my people. So last year it was virtual. So Alifia sending a video, Randy sending a video, because I wanted them to see other people who looked like them in different career roles. And if they wanted to reach out, they had that opportunity as well. So I feel for our islands, for Dominica, we have enough people all over the world with different experience. So we need to show that representation. These are people who came from the same villages like you. This is what we're doing. This is how we got there. Contact us, and that can feed right into the whole mentoring system as well. And it should be just one day. It could be a total exploration, building on it.
Right. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation, because that has been a recurring thought in my mind, that we need to have an opportunity to connect Dominicans in Dominica or wherever we are, old, young, middle age, connect people who've had the experiences, who've walked the path, who've learned a thing or two from where they came and what they would have done differently, and we can pass it on to the next generation. So if you would have me, I would love to be a part of the movement, and I have several platforms that I can offer, this one being Q95 and another radio station, as well as my Facebook Live programs. So I think we have an incredible opportunity to make a meaningful contribution to our island, Dominique, as well as the Caribbean region. So Dr. Glenn, as I come over to you for your final thoughts on anything you would like to talk about, I just want to kind of tap in and thank you for your over 30 years of service to the Caribbean region as well. But in your experiences, what can you share? What are some of the missed opportunities? Where do we need to improve? So, what can you offer to us after all these years and all these interactions with us as born Caribbean people?
Yeah, one of the things, coming back to technology, one of the things that we have had the opportunity to embrace since the pandemic and because of it is a more cost effective, multiple laden platform approach to embarking on education. So in the past, students used to have to go through a process and essentially get a loan and pack up and get ready to physically go to the education. Well, now we can start and in many cases finish that education. I mean, you've built a career delivering education to people in their living room while they're eating dinner. And so this is the way of the future, and we need to get our people to embrace it. If we reduce the costs, then we also reduce the opportunity cost, and we broaden the spectrum of those who can access higher education. So almost all our students, we are encouraging them to start online. And finally, the point you made about joining us, and Simeon and anyone else, Ali and Terry and I, we've been on this trek forever. I mean, even in the days when they were students. And one of the things that we spoke about is what's missing. What's missing? Why are the kids not properly mentored? Why are they not as successful? And I'm going to say this with a little bit of sadness, and statistically, it is borne out. Why is it that those who came in the last 15 years or so have not to date done as well as those who came in the 15 years prior? We had leaders more. In the beginning, we had a little bit more drive, a little bit more hunger. Maybe we were poorer. We were personally invested in our education. We had loans and banks to pay back, and so we tended to move a little bit more aggressively towards that, realizing the return on the investment. That's not the case today. But I think we also had a more developed skill set for navigating strange worlds and different worlds. The kids today are less comfortable, would you believe, despite all the exposures and all the technology, less comfortable communicating and interacting with people of different cultures. They are shy. They're worried about their accent, so they speak less in class. They don't embrace and take opportunities outside the field of study. They stay very narrow. They follow the script. They don't embark outside. They aren't starting their little entrepreneurial, expanses. A lot of us are late to that table, but they need not be, because they see the exact opportunities that's there and available for them. One of the students I was most proud of in my time, he came up, he never worked for anybody on campus. He could cut hair, and he opened a barbershop. And for the entire time he was there, we call him Pembo from Nevis. For the entire time he was there, he cut everybody's hair, made money, then passed it on to his brother. Right now at Western Illinois, if we had a kid from Dominica coming up, I would say to him, if you have barbering skills, right there is your ticket to pay your tuition. If you could braid hair, young lady, you got it made. There are all these things. Ali referenced the cosmetology and the other little skill sets. We had a lot of people who made money from food. We have to start using those things that we're naturally good at as well to a benefit while we are embarking on the major trail through education or whatever career path we choose. But I want to thank everyone for allowing me this opportunity. And yes, I did miss that glorious opportunity to have my Dominican passport.
Yes, you did. And also, is there a contact information for you in terms of an email address if anyone wants to get in touch with you for more information on Western Illinois University?
Sure. It's r-glean at wiu.edu.
Again?
R as in Randy dash Glean, Glean, at wiu.edu. And
Yes.
again, mentioning the 300 broader Caribbean, I like to think regionally, group that we have, I think, yes, it would be great to do a panel to reach out to all of them. They all need the same nurturing that we talked about. Happy to use your platform.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to provide it. So we want to thank everyone for joining us. Alethea, I'm going to come to you for your final thoughts as well. But I think we can see that this was a very productive and fruitful conversation with much more to come. So let's take a couple of the Facebook Live comments before we sign up this evening. Julie Polito, what a great learning program. Marshall, great program, all right. Some countries are thinking manufacturing, marketing, engineering, technology. Liz out there in Massachusetts, who's joining us via YouTube, says, I am at school tonight. Great discussion. So much food for thought. Let's see who else we have. Carl Kofi James, my boy Simeon. Lynn Lewis, thank you for being here. Windith Revere, thank you for being here. Carol Olivache, thank you for being here. Emma Daniel, good vibes, thank you. Rosalind Severa McLean, this is a very impressive conversation. Simeon, you are a genius. Leon Lando, Mr. Joseph, you have this discussion locked down. Elizabeth, yes, Simeon, people with high academics must learn to use their hands, and skilled people must learn to use their minds. Powerful. Rosalind, congratulations, Simone, on this brilliant program. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's take some comments from folks we have not yet called. Clea Bino, hi, Mom, Mama, and Auntie. Bino, I am assuming she belongs to you, Terry. David Joseph, we certainly need a national policy as far as educational aspect is concerned, especially in the medical field. Way too many doctors studying the same thing. Currently, we have only one native heart specialist on island, Dr. Rochelle Andrew. I may be wrong, but I do not believe that we have a native neurologist on island. Therefore, we need to have a program whereby we can decide on certain fields of studies, especially where the government is involved. Juanita, thank you for being here. Matilda, Glenda, let's see who else we have. Ali Tula, oh, I think that's you, Ali. You were saying hi to everyone. Peter Thomas, thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone who made a meaningful contribution. Glenda Shillingford, I need to watch the replay. I missed the beginning. Thank you, Glenda. Diane Dean, Kiki Charles, Bernard Arlene, Dominica Academy of Arts and Science. I remember it, Bernard. Is this not the perfect vehicle for networking, folks? How do we all feel about this? Are you members? What do you think? Bernard, I have a question. Is it still in operation? Because if it is, I would love for us to connect with the folks at the Dominica Academy of Arts and Science. So Bernard, feel free to send me an email at pushpast10@gmail.com. So PUSHPAST 10@gmail.com, so we can begin that conversation. Emma, great stuff on the mentoring program. Has a plan for that as well for my community, but face some challenges. So that's always the case. There are always challenges, right? Karina, great program. Stromwick, Mr. Joseph, great discussion. Maria Francis, wow, we have an incredible crowd here today. Doc Paris, nice job, my sister. Jennifer Daisy, very interesting program, watching from St. Martin. So Alithia, let me come over to you for your final thoughts as we wind down the program this evening.
Thank you, Simone. And I would like to say, in terms of what's next for the region, again, I believe that people, and not the people are the government. The people drive policies and should demand change. One of the things I would like to leave with our audience tonight is, even if we have degrees and technical skills in all areas, one of the ways I think that as a region we can add value to those degrees and skill set is through our customer service approach. I think that is an area where I believe that no matter how high you are, whether you're a doctor this or doctor that, the way that you treat people is important. And when I counsel students or potential students, I treat them with the utmost respect. They do not know that I have this number of degrees. I am just a person who had some experience and is willing to share my experience with them. And I think that that is so important. If we could improve our customer service approach and the way that we treat not just foreigners, but the way that we treat each other as we serve each other, I think that will add value to our education and our training. And as a people, we will see the rewards and the growth from the way in which we treat our others from a service perspective. And I think if we can do that, that will help us. And how can we do that? There are certain skills that we have to develop, soft skills. And Dr. Glean and I talk about those soft skills all the time. And I will say that soft skills are important because you cannot catch flies with lime, you catch flies with honey. And so even if you are looking for that loan to go to study and you have to deal with the loans officer, you have to recognize that you're in a position where you need this person's support. And the way in which you start the conversation, the way in which you maintain your composure, all of that is so very important. And I would just like to challenge our people to focus and grow as a Caribbean region. That will add value to any degree that we get, because you have to, it's people first. It should always be about people and serving people and how we serve them. People don't remember anything. If they don't remember anything else, they remember how you treat them.
Absolutely.
And so just to extend the conversation about the networking opportunity, I think there are people in throughout the region who are, and that is I Dell consult available and mentorship to potential students and others who are looking for opportunities for growth.
Yes.
Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for all the people on Facebook, all the Afua we Pasti going crazy out there supporting me. Thank you guys very much.
You're not from Marigot, Afua we simply means all for us. Am I correct? I'm a Creole speaker, not a Kokoi speaker.
You got it in a nutshell.
Yes, so again, thank you, panel. Thank you, Dr. Glean, Alethea, Terry, and Bino, Mr. Simeon Joseph. Thank you so much. So I think we can all agree that this is only the initial conversation and we have so much more to cover. So I'm looking forward to collaborating and networking and making this into something that has an impact for Dominica and the Caribbean region. So here we are at the end of the program. Thank you, Lambi, for taking our calls. Thank you, Sherwis, Mr. G, the Q95 family, our very engaging Facebook audience. I always look forward to hearing from you and interacting with you. And you know, as the world continues to evolve and rapidly change, we will continue to explore the changes right here on Roots Connections on Q, only on Q95, the big station, and how these changes are impacting the lives of our Dominican brothers and sisters. We will also continue to explore concrete and practical economic and financial opportunities for the financial independence of Dominicans at home and abroad, and provide hope and inspiration, especially for our youth who are looking for direction for their next steps, what emerging careers and opportunities they should pursue to earn an income and be able to support themselves and their families. So again, I want to thank you for being here. And of course, if you're looking to connect with us as we continue to grow an international village, a global community at home and abroad for the benefit of Dominica, and we also continue to tackle major issues, then you can find me at pushpast10.com. So again, www.pushpast10.com for more information. So again, you've been listening to Roots Connections on Q. I am Simone Mathieu. We will be back here for another program on April 27th, 2022, 8 to 10 p.m. So don't forget to join us, and let's take some final comments. Avenel, Jean-Marie, definitely. So Alethea, agree with you. Joyce Renee, great panel discussion, soft skills. Very important when dealing with people. Thank you so much, Alethea. for mentioning that. Looking forward to the next discussion. My mom, Medina Senhouse, well said, Mrs. Tulor, Esther James, good program. Joyce Renee, great discussion. So again, thank you, panel. Thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be a part of the program. And I just want to wish you a pleasant good night's rest. And I look forward to being in touch with you as we continue this movement. So you can unmute your mics and say bye to the folks.
Bye,
Have a good
everyone.
night, everybody.
Have a great night.
Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Simone.
All right, take care. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.